Good afternoon gamers, my name is COLONELDAMNEDERS and welcome back to the Warhammer 3 newsroom. Today we have even more breaking news about the brand new Winds of Magic system coming in Total War Warhammer 3. Let's waste no more time and dive right into it. Right off the bat, everything is being changed. Magic reserves, casting spells, and even the rules of battle are being changed when it comes to magic, particularly in more magic-filled parts of the map, such as the Chaos Wastes. Magical reserves are now being changed to be a little less to do with where you are and more to do with where you came from. So at the start of your campaign, your army may begin with, say, 50 Winds of Magic in reserve. When they're in an area with blowing Winds of Magic, this neither goes up nor down. However, once they move to an area with calm Winds of Magic, this reduces by 10 per turn, meaning the longer they stay there, the lower the reserves of magic they get. If an army then moves into an area with strong Winds of Magic, their reserves will start to increase by 5 per turn, but this can be increased by adopting the channeling stance, which will increase them by a further 15 per turn for a total of 20 per turn. You can further augment this with certain hero skills to increase per turn increases by up to 20%, meaning the theoretical increase limit here is a massive 22 wins per turn, and this eventually caps out at 100 wins in reserve. So to make that basic, because I realised that was a lot of numbers, start out with some reserve, move to a place with less wins, the reserve you can use will start to go down. Go to a place with more wins and it will go up. Use the channeling movement stance and it will go up by more, and the max you can get is 100. There are also a large number of ways to increase or decrease this reserve outside of moving around, such as dilemmas, research skills, items, post-battle decisions, and more, and you may also be able to alter your enemy's Winds of Magic. When playing as demons, even without casters, it's important to keep the wins as high as possible to reap numerous benefits. All demon factions receive debuffs to replenishment, leadership, and physical resistance when at low reserves. When at high reserves, they all gain campaign movement range and another effect unique to each faction. Tzeentch gains an increase to the barrier recharge speed, Khorne gains spell resistance, Nurgle gains melee defense, and Slaanesh gains speed. The reserves still slowly move from reserve into your active pool, and once you run out of reserves, you're done, unless you can find some other way to harvest power whilst in battle, such as draining it from enemies via some Tzeentchian magic. The gambling feature pre-battle will still be there in pretty much the same way as before, though your starting power is now simply a percentage of your reserves, meaning the more reserves you have, the more power you'll start with, no matter how bad your luck may be. However, if you enter a Chaos Realm, the rules tend to get a little bit twisty. Battles inside Chaos Realms, aside from Khorne's, are now played with the Storm of Magic rule set. The first change of the rules is to the magic reserves. They are now infinite, meaning the longer the battle goes on, the more spells you're going to see with no sign of slowing down. Now you will still need to find ways to move them to your active pool, but you will never run out if you are patient enough. The Storm of Magic is also ever-changing, with each law of magic having a chance to rise to ascendancy. Any law in this status gains unique bonuses per law, as well as a unique Cataclysm spell ability. These abilities can only be used if you have any caster in your army, and they must be charged up via spellcasting on either side of the battle. This isn't limited to casters of the specific laws, but each side can only use these abilities once per cycle, and you must use the abilities before the Ascension changes laws, or you will miss your chance. The passive effects are also applied to all units, no matter if they have a spellcaster or not. Now they actually laid out these effects for each of the 8 main laws, and these are the only laws to include these effects. The Law of Beasts causes all units to become immune to psychology and gain charge bonuses, and the Cataclysm spell is Mercieu's Monstrous Regiment. You imbue the strength of the wild on a single unit to increase weapon damage, armor-piercing damage, melee attack, and physical resistance. The Law of Life grants all units perfect vigor, and the Cataclysm spell is Storm of Renewal. This sprouts a tree from the ground, which provides huge regeneration in a large area. The Law of Death grants all units increases to arm-piercing damage, and the Cataclysm spell is called Ashes and Dust. This conjures a suffocating dust cloud, which chokes the life from enemies in a large area after a short build-up. The Law of Fire grants all units melee attack increases, and the Cataclysm spell is called Magma Storm. This causes a massive eruption to protrude from the ground, burning everyone caught in the area. The Law of Heavens grants all missile units increases to damage and armor-piercing damage, and the Cataclysm spell is called Thorson's Thunderstorm. This covers a large area in a storm, which deals massive damage with lightning bolts to everything below. The Law of Light grants immunity to psychology and magical attacks, and the Cataclysm spell is called Time Amok. This grants increases to reload skill, speed, and melee attack in an area. The Law of Metal grants bonuses to armor and missile resistance, and the Cataclysm spell is called Gehenna's Golden Globe. This summons a molten spear from the earth that rolls across enemy forces. And finally, the Law of Shadows grants all units faster charging and movement speed, and the Cataclysm spell is called Dance of Despair, and this reduces leadership and melee stats of enemies in an area. Finally, as a consolation prize for Khorne, his forces receive further bonuses to their natural spell resistance whilst inside the Storm of Magic. but he himself does not gain any other bonuses, even from the Ascendant Law. He does, however, also gain the ability to summon even more demons into battle to even the tide a little bit more. Conversely, Tzeentch and his Mastery of the Winds mean that his armies get to pick the first law to go into Ascendancy. His forces also gain a lot of abilities to increase the rate at which power is moved from reserves to active use, meaning facing them with infinite reserves can be quite the experience. And that's just about everything we have for you right now on the Winds of Magic rework in Warhammer 3. Should there be any more developments, they will be brought to you right here as soon as possible, so be sure to subscribe to see that. Also, if you're a fan of the show, consider supporting us on YouTube memberships, Patreon or Twitch to get shoutouts at the end of videos, like it's your boy LC, for supporting at that wonderful Unclean Ones tier. One more time, thank you all for watching, and for now, I've been Colonel Damneders, and I will see you next turn.